Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard emerges with people from all walks of life who, through their own unique angle, succeed and flourish. Enjoy the ride and welcome to Unique Ways, an audio podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. We have a distinguished guest on today. He's a Swiss-born American designer, entrepreneur, and educator, and he's the founder and principal designer of Fuseproject. Please join me in welcoming and celebrating Yves Béhar. Welcome.
Thank you, Thomas, for having me.
Are you ready for 20 questions?
I am. I am ready for you.
Great. Okay, question one. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
So I grew up in Switzerland, and I moved to the United States, LA, in my early 20s to finish my studies in design. And I was always driven as a young person by writing, fiction, ideas. I wanted to be a journalist, actually, until I realized that I could tell stories through design. I didn't have to write them down. I could actually draw them up or build them up, and people sometimes would understand what I was trying to say through my work.
Perfect. Question two. What's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, a difficult question for me because I know that I have a certain propensity towards um, new ideas and new constructs, and I really try to be in tune with the world around me. And I mostly, I think, experience it emotively. And I feel that when I'm given a problem, and usually it's a new problem, I'm not a specialist. I work on a vast array of different projects and companies, um, and even disciplines. And I feel like the first thing that I always do, and I spin those questions, I spin the challenges in in my head for a long time. And I think maybe my special, if there is a special talent there, it's maybe the one of observation and the one of um, curiosity towards what makes us all sometimes kind of desire the same things, the same change, the same progress without really being able to express it. So how do you dig into that? How do you extract that? By observation, I think, by being sensitive to um, the areas in people's lives that people aren't really discussing or aren't really expressing or don't really know where that should go, and maybe having that sort of search mindset, that observing and search mindset is what kind of keeps me on these problems and eventually to find something interesting to say.
Great. So that segues nicely. So number three is why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
I think I do design because when I was a teenager, I realized the power of creativity. I was on a university track in the equivalent of high school in Switzerland, and I wasn't very good at learning linearly. I realized that I was more of a maker, builder, and at the time, this was the mid '80s. I was a punk, so the superpower of the punk movement was to not be afraid to do new things that you're not skilled at. So you could be a fashion designer, you could be a musician or a music producer, you could be a graphic designer, um, you could be a furniture designer, and you could be self-taught. You could go out there and make something out of the sheer belief that you have a right to do so. You have a right to try. You have a right to fail. You have to right to a right to show something that is eventually different and personal. And I think that power really sort of took over in a way. And since basically since I'm 16 years old, I haven't pursued or had the idea of any other profession or any other direction in my life. So all that to say, I've been doing this for a long time.
Great, I love it. Some people struggle with number four, but the question is, what does your future look like?
I think I only struggled with that briefly because I chose this profession, as I said, at 16. And actually, a year ago, I bought Fuseproject back. Fuseproject is the design studio I founded 25 years ago. And it was sold 10 years ago. And I remained CEO and I remained, uh, you know, I remained the creative here and with my team for the last 10 years. But then I had a realization, which is it's really what I want to keep doing and as long as possible. And it felt I gained the sort of the belief that the next 25 years will be just as good or if not better than the last 25 years. And so I want to continue to learn. And for that reason, I purchased Fuseproject back. And that means that I'll keep designing and learning and getting into new fields. Most recently, I designed my first humanoid robot. We will be presenting a solar yacht, all kinds of projects and all kinds of activities that I haven't, I haven't done in the past. So my future will be to continue building and continue imagining what the future can be.
Great. Number five, we say is unique to this show. And the question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
The notion of place has played a huge role in my own development. Um, when I was in my early 20s, I moved to San Francisco. I think I was 23 or 24. I had studied in Los Angeles. And very early on in my career, I would just be, when I used to work for companies like Luna Design or Frog Design, I used to be in these big meetings with people that were much older than me, very accomplished, both in business and sometimes academically. And just being thrown into a room of leaders and experts and being such a young designer, I was really kind of blown away about how I was welcome to contribute and how, in fact, I was expected to contribute. And that was a unique trait of San Francisco and Silicon Valley in the mid 90s because it was a place of a tremendous amount of geographical diversity. People from all around the world would be sitting around the table. People with all kinds of different academic and business backgrounds, and I felt like everybody had a role to play, and I think that was, for me at least, probably the secret of the success of Silicon Valley is that out of the rest of the world, it was the least homogeneous place that I could work in innovation, in new technology, in design, really anywhere. So being here, being in San Francisco, was really transformed, I would say, even my brain, even just the way my brain functioned, the fact that I had to step up to participate, to contribute at a young age, really sort of pushed me and brought out a different personality from what I had grown up with, which is Switzerland and Europe, which at the time, seniority was regarded as probably the most important element of credibility in the room. And so here I was giving an opportunity which I found to be completely unique. And that's what made San Francisco and Silicon Valley really a unique place to practice design.
Mm. Okay. Number six, you're starting from the beginning. What advice do you give your former younger self?
That is another question that I found challenging when I read through them. In part because I don't believe in not making mistakes. I actually do believe that the mistakes that I made um, helped me learn and grow. And so, the advice maybe I would give myself is patience. I think there is a tremendous expectation that as a creative, one gives himself or herself, which is to find a solution. But we never know how long it's going to take. We never know whether the inspiration, the direction will come in 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 months. And of course, when you're in design, you're under deadline. People expect you to produce something. And I find I find that tension really interesting. The tension of, the nervousness, the anxiety, the, the intensity of not knowing can be, paralyzing. It makes you kind of cranky, or it makes you, um, continuously explore, and of course, all creative fields come with a certain amount of frustration. But what I realized is when I set my brain in motion, and we all do that, the problems um, tend to resolve themselves over time. I mean, it's one of my favorite quotes, um, you know, from Pablo Picasso is, you know, inspiration. It's something I'm prefacing, but it's something along the lines of inspiration exists, but it needs to find you working, which is you need to set your brain in motion, and you need to be patient with the fact that a result will come by as long as you apply yourself to it.
Nice. What's a day in your life like?
Well, I would say my average day is that I show up at work at 8:30 in the morning, drop off my kids before that at their school at 8:15, and start working. Usually with Europe early in the morning. So I have a few calls, a few brainstorms that I do from 8:30 to 9:30. And then I start working with a team here. We have a team in Lisbon, which is 8 hours ahead of San Francisco. And we have, of course, the team of Fuseproject here in San Francisco. So, and I think the rest of the day kind of goes by mostly applying myself to the different projects we're working on, from the Tello truck that we're designing, to, we're actually bringing one into the office. So it's front and center of our activity here. And I don't have much of a lunch. Usually it's in the office or a quick thing with the team outside. And I'll exercise in the afternoon. Sometimes I'll go surfing if the conditions are good. And then I have the kids' responsibilities in the evening. So meals and and work. I mean, and homework rather.
Okay. Lifelong learning is a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
That is the most important aspect of what I'm excited about of my life, which is a sense that learning is what I love to do. And I'm very lucky because we work on so many different types of projects that I'm constantly learning the context, the environment in which these projects will live. And so I love being in a room, being presented with a completely new challenge and spending my time solving and resolving it. I would say that's my biggest form of education. I do read, I do listen to some podcasts and watch some documentaries. I'm not a big consumer of media. I don't spend any time watching movies or Netflix. Um, but I tend to do this sort of what would you call that? In context learning or on the job learning, really on a daily basis.
Great. Can we talk about tools, your use of digital and analog tools?
So, I mean, in our office, it's a typical office with uh, 3D and 3D printing and CAD and uh, machinery, CNC, laser, etc. So those are the digital tools that we use. I mostly use sketching, writing down of ideas. Um, I do some graphic design work on the computer, but I would say my tools are there for expediency and speed. I find that putting my ideas on paper by hand is significantly faster. My ability to try lots of different things quickly to explore um, more deeply, I think the nature of an idea is through drawing and through making prototypes. Um, we have looked at AI tools for design. Not a successful area as far as my experience so far. So it's very hands-on, but I love that because the hand and the brain are very connected. And I think all the best thinkers, were designers, all the best designers were thinkers and makers. And so I feel I stay connected to the essential tools of how things are made and built.
Great. Okay. Halfway number 10. How do you deal with work life or life work balance?
Very good question. So I feel that I'm working all the time, and I also feel like I'm living all the time, or having fun all the time. So I don't really, um, I don't think about it too much, but I definitely have a discipline around exercise, around growing, around certain sports and physical activities that I do. So I'm very committed to that. I don't tend to sacrifice time with my kids or time on my health or time exercising for work. But I'm you can find me working really at all times of the day or all kinds of different situations, weekends and after hours. But it's not it doesn't feel like a struggle from that standpoint. It feels like it is just part of the fluidity of creating, building, being a designer and entrepreneur at the same time.
Great. 11. If you weren't doing what you do now, what might you be doing?
I truly believe that is the only thing I can do. I'm I mean, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing right now, I would be probably chasing a swell somewhere, chasing some waves as a surfer.
Mm.
It's a midlife pursuit that I've taken on. But I think in general, if we're talking in general, if there was another profession or another activity that I would be practicing, it probably would be entrepreneurship around an environmental project, around ecological or environmental opportunity.
What would you not like to do with your career?
Become an accountant, being a manager, um, uh, dealing with legal. None of these things I'm very good at. And I think it was really a blessing that I took on design early on. I find myself being very binary in the sense that I believe I have a strength in the things that I enjoy, and I have real weaknesses in the things that I'm simply um, that I that I'm not having a good time doing.
Great. So you mentioned 13, but do you have a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Yes, my favorite sentence, which I use on a regular basis, is that design accelerates the adoption of new ideas.
Do you have a least favorite?
Good question. Least favorite. I can't think of one right now.
You're choosing one.
Well, maybe the one that says what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I don't really believe that.
Great. You're choosing one word to describe yourself. What word do you choose?
Only one?
More if you like.
Well, freedom,
Mm.
um, grit,
Mm.
loyalty. Those are all important words for me.
What keeps you up at night?
My own spinning mind. I'm still working on controlling that. Uh, I think that is sort of the your default brain is it's something that you have to sort of keep in check always and forever. It is easy to be self-consumed.
So final stretch here, number 17. What's a dream you're chasing?
I think I'm chasing the dream of building experiences um, that make people feel and act smarter. I'm very interested in these out of left field ideas, these constructs that people seem to be very reluctant at, and then or afraid of. And I love the superpower that designers, architects, and other creatives are, which is to change our minds, to show us through good design, good experiences, that something that they may have thought was impossible, that it is actually possible, enjoyable, and desirable.
Hmm.
So I think I have a bit of a contrarian, or I love a challenge to bring something new to fields or areas of our lives um, that need it, that require it.
Great. And 18, what inspires you?
What inspires me, I've been saying this for a while, is the idiosyncrasies of modern life, of our existence. I'm not inspired in particular by shapes or nature or, you know, I'm more inspired by the psychological and emotional needs that we have, especially in our kind of modern recent times when we're becoming extremely efficient and powerful with computers in our pockets, and yet there are big gaps in how we live, how we could live better, how we could be happier, how we could have more fulfilling existence. So I try to find these. I try to observe these in the way that we live our modern lives.
Nice. And any advice you'd like to share?
I'm asked this question a lot, especially when it comes to young people and young designers. And I feel that at least what worked for me, I can share that, initially there was a lot of opportunities to become um, a generalist or to learn a lot of ancillary skills that are not sort of focused on design. And I feel like, in this world of infinite choice, infinite opportunities to learn different things, at a young age, it is actually more useful to be extremely focused on one superhuman skill that you may be able to develop. And the reason is all the opportunities for diversity, to spread your wings, to explore um, the confines of a certain profession and become more diverse in one's practice. Those come after you've created tremendous value by being focused. And so what I would advise is to focus on something that you can be really good at, that you can derive pleasure and excitement from, because all the other opportunities will come after that. And sometimes I think in our education we get too many opportunities to dilute, I think, that's core talent that we have the opportunity to develop at a young age.
Great. And finally, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you, and what's our call to action?
Well, we have a website. I have an IG page at Yves Béhar. I mix sort of personal and work because that's just the way my brain or my life is. And I do find inspiration in rare moments of life, whether you're presenting something new or whether you're living something new. So let's give it a follow. See what you see.
Great. Well, thanks so much. Such a privilege to have you on today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
If you liked today's podcast, I encourage you to have a listen to other episodes. You can easily find them at uniqueways.ca or wherever you find podcasts. You can also find us on social media. And thank you. It's you that makes these great, and it's you who these are for. Stay tuned for more Unique Ways.